So, in a lot of relationships, we see where people are talking about wanting to be heard. I don't feel like you're hearing me. I need you to hear me. And the question that I have is in most of these instances, are we hearing ourselves first? Are we actually hearing what we're relaying to somebody else and how we're relaying it? Versus having a need for them to just hear us and then basically say something that we would, want to have said in return. Are we hearing ourselves first? The energy that we're putting out, the things that we're saying, the tone, the energy, and the timing are all important things to consider when we're talking about how we are addressing people. But are we hearing ourselves first? It's it's different when you're in a invested relationship emotionally and intimately, and so therefore I think we get a little lax with our hearing, how we talk, because we know that somehow it can either be made up or it will end and we'll move on to something else that can replace that. But when you compare that to sometimes the workplace, we put more value in how we communicate with coworkers and bosses because money is on the line, career is on the line. Sometimes we do that with neighbors or sometimes people out in society because things can always ultimately end up escalating to places that that other person doesn't care enough about you because they don't know you in an intimate way to say, you know what, let's not argue this way or whatever. If they're just a good person, that's great. But a lot of times people have met the bad end of things because that person didn't have to hear them. And more often than not, the first person didn't hear how they were talking to somebody else in the first place. And that's a dangerous place to be. So, do we hear ourselves? And often the question is, aside from do we hear ourselves, to correct what we've already said probably 10, 15, a million times before, why are we not learning the lesson to say, well, if it didn't work out before, then I'm basically going down the path of trying to prove insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, if we know that those things haven't worked, then why aren't we working to correct them? That starts with where we need to start hearing ourselves. Listen to the tone that we say things with, the energy, and again, the timing. Those are all important pieces because it's very easy to throw out to somebody else, oh, they're lacking in emotional availability, low emotional intelligence, lacking in critical thinking skills. Things those are all great, and but yet we exercise those again when we're at work or when we're often talking with strangers or people of authority. But we don't utilize those when we're talking about being around the person we profess to love on a daily basis or have stronger feelings for, enough to share our resources and often our physical selves with. So, why is that? Why is it that we can hear ourselves when it comes to a place where we might talk more formally, but the people that we should be most comfortable with? So there is a casual nature about it, but we should also pay them a respect that's higher than others. So again, why don't we hear ourselves? I would suggest that because it's too hard. That means that we would actually have to do some work on ourselves to say, you know what, my tone really sucks at times. My energy is really just not cool, or it's way too intense. And my timing has something to be desired because I'm coming at somebody or bringing it up at times that either have an expiration date, because if they say something to me now, I'm going to bring up something from a month ago, or I'm just going to hold this in my pocket so when I explode, I can throw all these things out that aren't fair to that person because I should have brought it up when I first noted it. But we're not hearing ourselves. And the other question is, how are we listening to that person? Are we actually listening to hear and understand and come to some sort of solution or agreement with that person? Or are we listening simply to have a rebuttal? Are we listening to make our point sharper and more accurate so we win that argument? You can win an argument and lose your relationship. That's not a hard thing to do. And that does not mean that that person packs up and leaves at that very moment. What you've done is you've killed essentially the soul within them to want to be with you, but they may stick around physically, but you're killing your relationships by not actually listening to that person nor hearing yourselves. There's a real tone deafness to that sort of behavior, and a lot of us are more guilty of it than we think, and I would count myself into that as well. If we've gone through long-term relationships that ended, then in part we've played some part in that. Now, not everybody's relationship ended because of not listening and things like that, but that's a huge part of it. We have to be honest with ourselves, and that's okay, but we have to learn and be able to move on from those episodes and say I can grow and learn from that and be able to hear myself more clearly before I speak, because those thoughts are in your head. So we know what we want to say before we actually say it. Therefore, we have the opportunity to put a governor, a buffer, an editor, and all of those things between our brain and our mouths, so it comes out in a way that we will gain the best possible experience from saying something. Because the smoother that we send it to them, the smoother it is received. It puts them at ease, and then it comes back in a smooth sense as well. But if we come out with that tone, energy, and timing, and we throw it at them, we put them a lot of times on the defense or into a fight or flight sort of situation. And what happens? They start lobbing things back. And before you know it, you have something that maybe you didn't intend on being, but it is. And we have control over those things. So how are we listening? Just imagine if we took an argument that we had or a disagreement that went badly with a loved one, and we secretly, somehow we were secretly recorded, and somebody took the transcripts of that argument and put them out on a script, brought in two actors to act out that same argument with that same tone, that same timing, that same energy, and then put it on something like a clip on social media so it looked like, just an average piece of entertainment or something that we would watch. A lot of us would not recognize that that was us, and a lot of us would admonish one, the other, or possibly both for the way that they acted and talked to each other. And the crazy part is, that was us all along. We didn't even realize it because we were so secure in the knowledge that I talk great. I definitely would not do that. That's not me. We've all done it, and we all know when our partner has done it too. And it's like, oh, if I only had a recording of it, because you just said that. No, I didn't say that. And we can fly into denial quicker than anything. So, how are we hearing ourselves? Or are we even bothering to hear ourselves? And how are we listening to somebody else so that their point can be received, and hopefully there's a solution or some sort of positivity at the end of the conversation? What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear your ace up the sleeve advice, comment, experience. We've all gone through it to some degree. And it doesn't have to just be about your personal relationships. What was it about something in the workplace, or what was it about something with a neighbor, or anyone along those lines, a family member, anything along those lines? Because it's all important. So hopefully we get some comments from different sectors that give different reflections, things like that. But as always, subscriptions to the channel are free, and free is a good thing in this economy. Share it with your family and friends, and hopefully we'll see you guys soon. Don't forget to hit the like or the dislike, thumbs up or thumbs down. I won't be mad at you, but it's all very important to the channel's growth. So I hope this finds everybody in a place, pursuit, or beginnings of total health, mind, body, and soul. Peace, love, unity, solidarity.